Hello today. How's everybody? It's late in the morning or 5 in the morning. Watching um, what do you call? I'm gonna watch the Dhamma. Uh,
In context, smart
Four Noble
automated
Truth.
tools is like having a team of expert marketers without the overhead. Here are 3 ways to add more customers to your business while saving time. 1.
Watch it with
Attract new
me.
customers by easily designing, managing, and scheduling posts across all your social media platforms in just a few clicks. 2. Drive more visitors to your website with attention-grabbing social media ads.
Four Noble Truths are the foundation of the Buddha's teaching. These 4 deceptively simple insights are in fact so profound you can spend a lifetime understanding just one of them. The Pali word for truth, satya, also means reality, or that which is actual. So, the Four Noble Truths are not philosophical claims to believe in or accept. Rather, the Buddha taught them as scientific truths, such as gravity, evolution, or the laws of thermodynamics. The Four Noble Truths represent objective, fundamental aspects of reality the Buddha realized when he awoke. To not know these truths, he said, is to sleepwalk through life, repeating always the same mistakes, not knowing they bring you suffering. But it is no coincidence these 4 truths are called noble. To hear them is already the first step on a path that one day will bring you to becoming an awakened one, a Buddha yourself. So, let's explore the 4 Noble Truths of the Buddha and see how these ancient teachings can enrich our own lives as sentient beings wrestling with the mystery of life. The first noble truth is that life is full of dukkha. Now, what is dukkha? Most people translate this Pali word as suffering, but this is only partly right, and it can be misleading. Suffering is a very strong English word we use on rare occasions. We say we've had a stressful day at work, or that we're angry for losing our headphones, or that we regret not talking to our crush back in high school. Life is full of such unpleasant experiences, but to call them suffering is a bit of an exaggeration. The Buddha meant just such things with dukkha, but he also meant so much more. For example, losing your keys is dukkha, but also losing a loved one is dukkha. Regretting your choice for lunch is dukkha, but regretting 30 years of a bad marriage is also dukkha. Hitting your toe is dukkha, and having a lifelong trauma, too, is dukkha. The point is, dukkha can be translated as suffering, but also as dissatisfaction, discomfort, stress, or unpleasantness. All these things are dukkha, but dukkha is none of them. Dukkha is a much deeper word than any English translation can relate. It is a word used in Buddhism to denote the profound reality of life, namely that we never really get what we want. And even if we get what we want, we always end up losing it one day. This is the first noble truth of Buddhism. But not only unpleasant things are dukkha. The Buddha tells his disciples that even pleasure, material and spiritual alike, is dukkha. The pleasure you experience during an orgasm is dukkha. The happiness from seeing your child born is dukkha. Even the pleasure of learning the Buddha's teachings is dukkha. Why? Because none of these things ever last. Think about it. Whatever happiness and pleasure you attain in life, whether material or spiritual, it will one day all be gone. And when it is gone, it will leave you with the pain of being separated from it. Thus, all the happiness and pleasure you will find in this world contains the seed of dukkha within it. And you will experience this dukkha, if not now, then later. This is not an opinion, but a reality of life. You see, the first noble truth of Buddhism is much deeper and darker than most people realize. It says not only that there is unhappiness in life, it says that even what we believe is happiness is only a delayed form of unhappiness. Pleasure is only the mask of pain, achievement, only the mask of disappointment, happiness, the mask of dukkha. Now, here you may say, wait a minute. Sure, happiness always comes and goes, but so does unhappiness. Why did the Buddha focus so much on dukkha and not also on its opposite? Isn't this unfairly pessimistic? To this I would answer, please be patient, we're only at the first of 4 noble truths after all. I would also say that there is some virtue in focusing on life's dark side. After all, dukkha is the universal problem facing all sentient beings, at all times and all places. In his great book, What the Buddha Taught, Walporatero writes, one physician may gravely exaggerate an illness and give up hope altogether. Another may ignorantly declare that there is no illness and that no treatment is necessary, thus deceiving the patient with a false consolation. You may call the first one pessimistic and the second optimistic. Both are equally dangerous. But the third physician diagnoses the symptoms correctly, understands the cause and the nature of the illness, sees clearly that it can be cured, and courageously administers a course of treatment, thus saving his patient. The Buddha is like the last physician. But what did the Buddha do after he discovered existence is full of dukkha? Surely a lesser mind would here collapse into nihilism. After all, if everywhere you turn there is only dukkha and more dukkha, what point is there in anything? A Western nihilist would here recommend taking one's own life. But for the Buddha, even this is not a way out. The Buddha was, after all, certain of the reality of rebirth and the law of karma. To take one's life as an act of violence would only put you in far worse subsequent life, where dukkha is even more intense. So, trapped in this endless labyrinth of dukkha, what could the Buddha possibly do to improve his situation? Well, he did what he advises us all to do. He pointed his trained mind singularly at dukkha. He looked, and he looked deep. And there, right in the middle of dukkha, he discovered the second noble truth: thirst. The second noble truth is that the cause and origin of dukkha is thirst. You see, the Sanskrit word for thirst is trishna, and it is no coincidence the two words sound so much alike. Thirst actually derives from trishna, and both mean the same thing. So, what did the Buddha mean by thirst, and why did he see it as the cause of dukkha? Well, think about the bad experiences you've ever had, no matter how big or small. A breakup, a car accident, a failed exam, a funeral. No matter how different, these all have one thing in common. That is, in each case you wanted your experience to be different from what it actually was. This is thirst, the fundamental desire for reality to be different than it is. Now pay attention, it is not thirst for the wrong things, but thirst itself that creates dukkha. A monk thirsts for enlightenment, a lover for his beloved, a woman thirsts for a child, a Wall Street trader for a bigger paycheck. One man thirsts out of love, another out of hatred. The specifics don't matter. Thirst is always the origin of dukkha. Whatever we thirst for brings us dukkha because we don't have it. Even if we get what we want, it is never as good as we imagined it to be. Even if what we attain is as good as we imagined, even if it's better, still it never lasts. The roads of desire are many and winding, but they all lead to the gates of dukkha. And it gets even worse. Thirst is an addiction. When our desires bring us dissatisfaction, we don't just give up on them. On the contrary, we feel that only desiring and attaining yet other things can bring us lasting happiness. Of course, this never happens. Every desire comes with the promise of a better life, but desire is like the mythical monster Hydra. Cut off one of its heads, and two more spring in its place. Every desire is the fuel for yet more desire, until we are all aflame in the fire of dukkha. In the fire sermon, the Buddha says to his disciples, "All is burning, monks. All is burning." Now, the Buddha distinguishes some desires as better than others. For example, the desire to become a better, more responsible person is more productive and less harmful than the desire for alcohol. But as one moves along the path of awakening, one must learn to detach him or herself even from one's spiritual ambitions. The amazing thing is that the Buddha designed his teaching in such a way that one needs to learn all of it through hard and long practice, and then one should let go of it entirely. The Buddha expressed this in his famous simile of the raft. He describes his teaching as a raft you use to cross a dangerous river. But what should you do once you reach safely the distant shore? Do you take the raft with you and carry it around? Of course not. This would only make it harder for you to go further. It is the same way with the Dhamma, the teaching of the awakened one. At first, you must put great effort into learning it, and it will save you from a lot of suffering. But once you are advanced enough, it will only impede your progress to stay attached to teachings, concepts, and practices, even those taught by the Buddha. A frequent criticism of Buddhist doctrine is the following: if desire is so bad for you, why do Buddhists tell you nirvana is so desirable? This question might seem like it points to some error in the Buddha's teaching, but it is the question itself that is erroneously put. It is like asking, when a fire goes out, where does it go? It is an invalid question. It uses words in a nonsensical way that only appears to make sense if you don't know their true meaning. If one knows what a fire going out means, one would not ask where the fire has gone. Similarly, if one has an idea of what nirvana is, one would not say it is an object of desire. But what is nirvana? And if it is the culmination of Buddhist practice, how can it not be an object of desire? To answer this, we need to look at the third noble truth the Buddha discovered.
Setting up HubSpot with LinkedIn was really easy. We saw our click-through
That
rates
was-
hit high above industry benchmarks.
Good.
Want to aid calcium absorption into your bones? Try Caruso's vitamin K2 plus D3.
If the first noble truth gives us the symptom, dukkha, the second noble truth gives us the disease all men suffer from, thirst. The other two truths then will tell us about the possibility of curing ourselves and what the cure is. Indeed, the third noble truth is one of the most extraordinary and life-affirming claims made in history. It is the claim that it is possible for a human being to bring dukkha to an end, completely and forever. The third noble truth comes from the Buddha's direct experience after his awakening under the Bodhi tree. There and then, he discovered a reality free from all thirst and all dukkha. This was not a concept or an abstract idea. It was, in fact, something even more real than what we are used to calling real in our daily lives. The Buddha discovered a perfect reality that is always and everywhere present if we have the eyes to see it. He called it nirvana. Nirvana is not only difficult, but impossible to explain in words. We have created words to speak of the illusory world we experience with our senses, but nirvana is that which is beneath all experiences. Words can only circle around it, but never enter it and survive, like moths around a flame. This makes some people uneasy. The great German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote that mystical explanations are considered deep. The truth is that they're not even superficial. To him, nirvana would sound like a made-up concept used to attract the naive, and confuse the Buddha's critics. But in defense of the Buddha, let's do a thought experiment. Imagine living on an island full of colorblind people and being the only one who can see colors. You might try to explain to others what colors are and that they are everywhere all the time, but all you do is convince them you're either a madman or a great mystic. Do you see what I'm getting at? To understand the Dhamma, we must allow that what confuses us in it may simply be the Buddha speaking of colors we cannot yet see. This attitude will allow us to discuss difficult terms like nirvana, even if none of us has a full grasp of them. So, what can we say about nirvana? The literal meaning of the Sanskrit word nirvana is to extinguish, to blow out. For example, when a fire goes out, it nirvanas, so to speak. Nirvana is not a state or a thing, but a transition. So, when people say the Buddha attained nirvana, this is misleading. It is more appropriate to say the Buddha extinguished himself. He is, so to say, nirvanat. But what exactly gets extinguished during nirvana? Well, there is a very long answer we will leave for a separate video just on nirvana. The short answer is that nirvana is the extinguishing of thirst. All likes and dislikes, all desire and attachment, all hatred, greed and delusion, all sense of being a separate self. These flames which turn our lives into a living hell all go out during nirvana. So, you see, it is nonsensical to say nirvana is something you desire. Nirvana, by definition, is the end of all desire. So, if you desire nirvana, you're desiring a false idea in your imagination of what nirvana is like. This too is something you must let go of for dukkha to end. In fact, even the desire to be free of dukkha must end if you wish dukkha to end. I know, the deeper we get into it, the more inadequate words become. This perhaps makes nirvana sound like some supernatural, extraordinary state only meditation masters can enter. But remember that Arctic Monkeys album called Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not. This is like a description of nirvana, and I don't mean the bad. Let me cite again what Paul Atero puts it beautifully. It is incorrect to think that nirvana is the natural result of the extinguishing of craving. Nirvana is not the result of anything. If it would be a result, then it would be an effect produced by a cause. Nirvana is neither cause nor effect. It is beyond cause and effect. Truth is not a result nor an effect. It is not produced like a mystic spiritual mental state. Truth is. Nirvana is. The only thing you can do is to see it, to realize it. There is a path leading to the realization of nirvana, but nirvana is not the result of this path. You may get to the mountain along a path, but the mountain is not the result, not an effect of the path. You may see light, but the light is not the result of your eyesight. Nirvana is a noble truth. It is a fundamental element of our reality. When we live in ignorance, nirvana sounds strange and outlandish to us. But one who has removed the beam from his eye, one who has developed wisdom, can see what has been there all along. And the Buddha did not just tell people about nirvana and leave them hanging. No, like a good doctor, he gave detailed prescriptions on how one should live so as to bring the disease of dukkha to an end. His followers compiled all the prescriptions the Buddha gave on various occasions. The early disciples memorized and organized these teachings into a system they started calling the path. This system had 8 major components, and so they called it the Noble Eightfold Path. It is this path exactly that is the 4th. and final, noble truth. Now, I am a Christian, and where I come from, we use a specific word for a wrong action. We call it a sin. But the word sin, especially in the old days, did not apply only to something wrong in the eyes of God. It had a more general meaning that applied to things that were simply flawed, such as a badly written poem or an arrow that cannot fly straight. We have this same concept in the Eightfold Noble Path, the fourth noble truth in Buddhism. This path is based on the idea that there is a wrong way of living, which creates dukkha, and a right way of living, which can reduce dukkha until it is finally gone, forever. This division between wrong and right actions is not based on the Buddha's subjective opinion. Rather, it is an almost scientific theory based on evidence you can inspect for yourself. In the eyes of the Buddha, most people are sleepwalking through life, immersed in delusion. Thus, without knowing it, they live in a way that creates dukkha. The Buddha's teaching was effectively a manual for how to live the right way and minimize dukkha for yourself and others. So, let's see what this manual consists of. Right view means the ability to see through the deluded words and actions of yourself and others. As today, so too at all times, what culture celebrates as virtue and success is usually flaw and failure in disguise. No amount of material wealth, productivity, or pleasure can rid you of dukkha. In fact, these things have the delayed effect of creating even more dukkha. To see this requires wisdom, and it is a right view. Right intention requires right view. Only after you see things as they really are can you create for yourself the right kind of goals. The Buddha saw that man is sick with endless thirst and dukkha, and so the best intention is to try to cure yourself and others from this illness. Once you see things as they are and have the right intentions, the way you speak, act, and live are calibrated to lead you out of the labyrinth of thirst and dukkha. And then we arrive at the final three branches of the path, which are a bit more technical. A lot of people, myself included, believe you can only go so far in your understanding of Buddhism without having a meditation practice. This does not mean that meditation alone leads to nirvana, but it is a vital component of transforming one's perception of reality. It is telling that the last three aspects of the Eightfold Noble Path refer to the Buddhist practice of meditation. Buddhist meditation deserves a whole separate video, so for now all we must understand is that one needs to train and transform one's mind in order to grasp the deeper teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha was a spirit healer, a mind healer, and meditation was his way of treating the human mind from the infection of ignorance and thirst. One needs to put significant effort into developing mindfulness and concentration so as to see through the false beliefs clouding his judgment. This is right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The Eightfold Noble Path does not tell you what to do. Rather, it is a description of what a fully awake human being is like. All you can do is try to imitate this description until you are gradually transformed into an awake human being yourself. And the 8 aspects of the path are not sequential. Rather, they all depend on one another. One has right view only if one has right mindfulness. One has right mindfulness only if one has right concentration, and so on. As Paula Thero writes, the path is a way of life to be followed, practiced, and developed by each individual. It has nothing to do with belief, prayer, worship, or ceremony. It is a path leading to the realization of ultimate reality, to complete freedom, happiness, and peace through moral, spiritual, and intellectual perfection. In the interest of honesty, modern scholars do not believe the Four Noble Truths were taught as such by the historical Buddha. They are probably a later formula created by the Buddha's disciples who were looking for a memorable summary of his teachings. Whether this is true or not will not bring us any closer to freedom from dukkha, but taking these truths to heart in our everyday lives, this might just as well be good for us. Remember that the Buddha is a nickname. It means the one who awoke. But think for a minute what this actually means. It is not just a metaphor. The Buddha tells us there is a shift in consciousness we can achieve, which is comparable to waking up from sleep. He is talking about nothing less than a total transformation of one's reality, which begins and ends in one's consciousness. And this is a transformation towards truth, towards, so to say, real reality. It is the end of sleep, the end of false stories, opinions and beliefs we all have in ourselves. Most importantly, it is the end of dukkha. The Buddha, when he finally perfected his mind, saw that human existence is a nightmare, but then he awoke. His teaching since that day, these Four Noble Truths, are like words he is whispering into our ears, trying to awaken us too. The good news is, the nightmare is only a dream. What awaits us when we awake is true reality, not only more perfect than we imagine, but more perfect than we can imagine.
This video is very good.
Thank you for watching this video on Buddha's Four Noble Truths. If you enjoyed it, I would very much encourage you to use this video as a jumping off point for your
Very enjoying.
exploration into the Buddha's teachings. If you're up for another deep dive, I would very much recommend my video on the no-self teaching. This is one of the most advanced, but also one of the most exciting teachings of the Buddha. And I have a much earlier video I did on it, and it's the most popular on the channel, so others enjoyed it, perhaps you will enjoy it as well. I have to say, making these videos is a labor of love, but it is a labor, so it takes hours and hours of work.
No black and white next time, please.
Make videos like this one in the future, you can check out the Secret Seeker Patreon page, where you can contribute with any donation you deem reasonable, and I would very much appreciate it. Thank you again for watching, and remember movies words. What you seek in you. See you next time.
Dear Sydney, Vancouver here. We should be friends. You're
How do you
hot,
like that
we're
film?
Cool. You're rugby. We're hockey. You're laid back.
Four Noble Truths. I always wanted, waiting for a documentary on Buddhism in English for a long time. I like watching in like documentary form. But that was okay. The Four Noble Truths. Give me good concentration. So it's 5 in the morning.
Spiritual path means first thing is to consciously seek poverty. To conduct yourself gracefully through poverty is not an easy thing. If you get hungry, you will become… all sense of being human will be lost, you will become like an animal. You should see the yogis in India, they never ask for anything, they keep going. You can see they are hungry. They have not eaten for days sometimes, but they will conduct themselves so gracefully. You offer them money, they won't take it. If you just offer one meal, they will take it. You offer money for one more meal, he won't take it, because he wants the challenge to be there in his life all the time. Because if I take money for 2 meals today, tomorrow I will logically convince myself, why not 10 meals? Then slowly I'll organize my whole life. Like, see, you have bought footwear for 3 lifetimes. Spiritual path means first thing is to consciously seek poverty. To conduct yourself gracefully through poverty is not an easy thing. If you get hungry, you will… first thing is to consciously seek poverty. To conduct yourself gracefully through poverty is not an easy thing. If you get hungry, you will become
Do. Okay, I'll end the video here, and I'll come and watch with me another film or something next time. Please do subscribe. Watching movie. This time I didn't talk too much because I was concentrating on the video, so just watching YouTube day by day. I wake up so early today. Right now it's, what's the time? The time is 5:50. Okay. Have a good morning, all of you.